Welcome back to Capitol Review. I'm Tosin Fakile in for Mark Hall. Citizenship in America could be redefined as the Supreme Court hears arguments over birthright citizenship. Dozens of protesters holding signs and chanting outside the Supreme Court Thursday against the case.
Birthright citizenship belongs to us. We won't go to the back of the line.
Judges deciding if the administration can still execute the order while legal challenges opposing it are underway. The order goes against the 14th Amendment, denying citizenship to children born in the U.S. if their parents are in the country illegally or temporarily.
Makes me angry just because it's a constitutional right from the very beginning. Why is it being taken away from me right now? What did I do? What did my parents do?
This is a question that the Supreme Court has never addressed in a holding. Never. And I think the historical record is much stronger in favor of President Trump's executive order than the 3 or 4 justices that commented about the merits were willing to accept.
Returning to Capitol Review is The Hill's Zach Schonfeld. He is the courts and legal reporter with our media partners at The Hill. Zach, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, so you were inside the courtroom during these hearings. Before we talk about the biggest takeaway, what was it like in there? How intense was it, if it was at all?
It was pretty intense in there. It was quite a lively argument. It lasted about 2.5 hours. And I'm not sure how much this came through if you just listened to the audio feed of the argument that the court puts out. But it was very lively in that room. There was times where the Trump administration's lawyer, John Sauer, he was using a lot of hand motions and actually at times was walking away from the podium a little bit, taking a few steps away. Not something you see from a whole lot of Supreme Court advocates. And also the justices themselves. You know, a lot of these arguments, the justices are not only talking to the lawyers, but they're really talking to their colleagues on the bench. And there were times where you saw the justices really, leaning back in their chairs and suddenly popping up to say something. There was a moment where I caught Justice Sonia Sotomayor as she was talking about her thoughts on the case. She was scanning her head kind of, along the bench to her colleagues, clearly speaking to them. And then beyond what was going on in the front of the room, just in the gallery of the courtroom, it was really a who's who. You had the Deputy Attorney General there, Todd Blanche, not something we often see. And then also his deputy, Emil Bove, was there. You also had multiple Democratic state attorneys general in the room. So a who's who and lots going on. Quite an intense day indeed.
And within all that intensity, what was your biggest takeaway?
I think coming out of these arguments, it seems that these justices are pretty divided on what is the direct issue in this case, which is when federal district judges, when they find that something the president does is unlawful or unconstitutional, as they have in these birthright citizenship cases, can individual federal district judges, can they block the president's policies not only just for the parties who are suing in court, but can they go a step further and block those policies nationwide? So the justices really aren't directly confronting the constitutionality of Trump's order. They're confronting this question of nationwide injunctions and the power of judges. And on that question, it really did seem that the justices were divided. You had several conservative justices really lamenting about the rise of these nationwide rulings and seeking to claw back the practice. But at the same time, on the other side, you had some of the court's liberal justices really defending the practice. So it does seem coming out of these arguments, it's not clear where the court is going to go here, but it seems that we are not headed for a 9-0 ruling.
And speaking of blocking, do lower court judges have the power to block Trump's policy across the country?
That is the million-dollar question in this case. And these nationwide injunctions are something that, as I talk to legal scholars, they tell me, these didn't exist really near the founding of the country. We've, there's some history over the last, decades and century or so, but really we've seen an explosion of these nationwide injunctions over the last 15 years or so. They started a little bit more during the second Bush administration. The numbers went up during Obama's administration, but they really have been used against no other president more than Donald Trump. There have now been dozens of these nationwide injunctions issued against the president, and that's why you're seeing the administration, both in court and in the court of public opinion, really try to make this case that they believe district judges are overstepping their authority. They believe that, district judges, the Constitution, confines their authority to only granting relief to the parties before them. So this really is the million-dollar question. I'll say this birthright citizenship case is not the first time where we've seen this issue come up, and it's something that we've seen some of the court's conservatives complain about in years past.
We'll have to wait and see. Zach Schonfeld, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.